gamers should not have to worry about purchasing a product and then weeks or months later it being changed under their noses. And right now, that exact situation is happening with Wuchang Fallen Feathers. It is receiving heavy criticism after this new censorship patch prevents killing historical figures. I have a few different things to show off, but before I get into the topic, if you enjoy the content I create, check out the links in the description, join the community in my live streams, and consider supporting through Patreon or YouTube memberships. Now, this situation really hurts my heart and soul because I did a full live stream playthrough of Wuchang and I really liked it. I thought it was a really fun Souls-like. I loved the aesthetic. I loved Bai Wuchang. I thought that she looked really good, and unfortunately now my entire view on this game is altered because if you are purchasing it or playing it now, it is a completely different experience. So this is a VGC article. It says this Souls-like, which was released last month, is set during the late Ming Dynasty and tells an alternate history of the period with the player controlling pirate Bai Wuchang as she attempts to take on the feathering disease which is affecting the land. I thought that it was a really cool concept. I liked some of the references to historical figures and the time period, even though of course there was magic and it was extremely unique and fantastical. It was still rooted in a little bit of realism, but unfortunately now the experience is totally different because the game received its version 1.5 patch earlier this week, which fixed numerous bugs and made some gameplay tweaks, which sounds really good because when it initially launched, it did have some technical difficulties, and they were putting out a lot of patches very quickly, which was great, but, well, players were also somewhat confused when they were met with one patch note, which reads, made adjustments to animations, values, and level designs for certain NPCs and AI, added dialogues for some NPCs to complete some plots. We will further optimize the exhaustion animations in the future to improve the plot performance. Players who downloaded the new update have found that the patch note refers to a crucial change in the game, which no longer makes it possible to kill certain bosses and other NPCs who are based on real-life historical figures. Now, when the game had initially released, it was receiving pretty bad user scores, in part because of technical difficulties, but the other half of that was because there were some Chinese gamers who were upset with the fact that they did decide to not follow historical figures' storylines, and they didn't make this game extremely historically accurate. See, to me and most of you, that didn't really matter because it wasn't marketed as being historically accurate, but also it is a video game with a lot of fantasy elements, but it seems that these Chinese gamers did end up getting their way, since now instead of dying, these characters collapse in exhaustion. Some of them also speak new dialogue to the player, essentially changing the story to ensure the plot still makes sense now that they're no longer dead, which is so infuriating because, first of all, we should not have to worry about purchasing a product and then weeks or months later it being completely changed and completely altered. If there was a toggle in the settings that turned, I don't know, historically accurate mode on, that would be one thing. But this is forced upon every single player, no matter what region you are in. But I can't say that I'm particularly shocked because this is a Chinese developer, and companies that want to release games in China, like Activision Blizzard's, right? They need to work with a large Chinese entity such as Tencent or NetEase and be approved by the CCP for their game to release there. And if a developer that is Chinese makes something that they want to release in other parts of the world, they need to comply with CCP regulations. And if they face backlash, the CCP can just tell them, you need to change this right now, because Chinese gamers are upset and they have to. So I can't say that I'm shocked, but I can say that I'm extremely disappointed, and I try to support developers around the world. I try to support South Korean developers and Chinese developers, and it doesn't really matter where they're from. If they're creating a great looking experience and it's something that I'm interested in playing, I will give it a chance. But it makes it so much harder to look at games made by Chinese developers and want to support them after being reminded how much control, of course, the CCP really has on all of our products. And I know that that happens with literally any industry, right? Look at how many products we get and we consume that a Chinese investor is invested in one way or another, or a Chinese company is actually making it. But it is very hard to sit here and say, yeah, you know, when the next Black Myth Wukong game comes out, I'm going to play it, because I know that this could happen with any game if it is not directly following historical accounts. In a thread on X, a game modder, Lance McDonald, heavily criticized the new changes, calling it actual censorship due to pressure from Chinese players who were upset about being able to kill historically significant characters from the end of the Ming Dynasty. And of course, there are a lot of gamers who are just very upset over this censorship in general. I had put up a thread on this, and some of the comments are saying, glad I never got it. Well, I was going to download this, not so much anymore. This is so sad to me because, again, the game itself is a really good Souls-like. It is a fun experience. It's got gorgeous visuals. I loved the combat. The bosses were really cool. I had a very good time playing it. If you want to see my review, it is up on the second channel. The link to that channel is in the description. I highly recommend you go over there and subscribe. But yeah, I mean, I had a really fun time with it, and it's unfortunate now that I can't recommend it to anybody. I was going to get the game. Now I'm keeping my money. I returned this for a reason. Glad I held off making the purchase. Instead, I'll continue to put money towards older games that can't be altered after the fact. Changing a product after it has released should be illegal. It is not, because developers can do whatever they want, but ultimately you're just going to lose our trust in the future. Is this something that can be fixed with mods? Because I'll 100% do that when I get around to playing the game. I don't know how easy it would be. Obviously, a death animation would be pretty simple for modders, but because they did change the story and dialogue and interactions with your character, I don't know how difficult that would be. I'd assume pretty difficult, though. Chinese devs should know how their country works. There's no way they didn't know the killing of historical figures would be an issue and they'd be forced to remove it. That was a dumbass move from the devs in the first place. Now their game is screwed because of it. Very true. Take Vara. Nothing to do with the government. China has their own version of a loud minority that ruins games for everyone. It absolutely also has to do with the government. You can't trust the CCP at all whatsoever in any case scenario. And sure, maybe these developers truly did feel like, we want to make our people happy, we want to make Chinese gamers as happy as possible, but I also think that this has to do with the CCP that can make demands in regards to any sort of piece of entertainment possible, or just really demands to any of their citizens possible, period. But yeah, I'll definitely be keeping my eye on the situation. It is very unfortunate, but there are other really great Souls-likes out there that I would now recommend over Wuchang. But that's all that I really had to discuss in this video. Let everyone know your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this and of course found it important and informative, make sure to give it a like, and if you didn't, give it a dislike. I appreciate your support either way, but I'll talk to you all again in the next video really soon.